Okay, so today is going to be lesson number 7th, and inshallah, we will cover this topic of haraka today. What is actually haraka? You might be already, familiar with this term because I mentioned this term and I explained this term a little bit in our starting sessions, right? In our previous sessions, I mentioned this thing, and we have been practicing with these harakas off and on as well. So what is haraka? Right, in the term of tajweed, right? Tajweed means the way we are reciting the Quran with rules and regulations, right? So what is haraka? Let's see just a little bit of it. So haraka, I've mentioned that these are the three basic symbols: the short vowel sounds and their symbols, right? In Arabic, the short vowel sounds, because in English we have just any letter. For example, we have C, A, and R. So these are just three alphabets. They do not have any symbols on top of them or something like that, right? But in Arabic, we have certain symbols on top of the letters and certain below the letters, and from those symbols there are three basic short vowel symbols that we see on letters. So these are the fatha symbol. First of all, fatha symbol. Fatha symbol is this short slanting line on a letter, above a letter actually, right? So for example, we have this fa letter. This fatha will be like this on top of it, short slanting line. The second symbol that we have is kasra symbol, kasra, which is again, a short slanting line, but this time below the letter. So let me write it like this, fi, right? And then we have a dhamma symbol. Dhamma is actually this inverted line, or you can say a curled line symbol above a letter. Okay, so like this, we can put it like this. So the sound these three symbols make is of a, e, oo, right? Fatha makes a sound of a when it comes on a letter. The sound of that letter plus this short vowel sound, they will together make together we will articulate that thing to, and to read that alphabet. Okay, for example, we have a fa letter. Fa letter has its own sound like fa. If I write it like this, if there is a symbol on top of it, that will determine its actual you can say sound in a word. For example, in a word we have, okay, like this, fama. Here this has f sound, this letter has f sound, but here this letter will have phi sound. So the name of the alphabet is fa, but it makes the phi sound as well because of certain haraka on top of it. So when we are reading the words, it depends, which haraka is coming on the letter or below the letter, and then we will articulate the letter from there, right? So the sound of this haraka, this first haraka is a. A. The fatha makes a sound a. The kasra makes sound e, and dhamma makes sound oo, right? So these are three basic harakas. Okay, so let's just learn something more about it. So fatha, kasra, and dhamma are called harakas, and fatha and dhamma are placed above the letters, right? We have just discussed this, whereas the kasra is placed underneath. The letter which has a haraka on it is called mutaharrik or mutaharrika. So this is just for the sake of information, sisters. Then the next point is pronounce the fatha by opening the mouth and raising the voice, right? So the sound of fatha is so obviously we're opening our mouth and sound is getting raised a bit as well. Uh, the kasra by dropping this the voice. Okay, so how we are supposed to drop e, e, we are just flattening our lips a bit, and just our jaw drops a little bit, and e, that is how we say the kasra. Very simple, inshallah. And dhamma by rounding the lips, obviously. Okay, so for dhamma, sometimes the beginner sisters can make this mistake that they do not shape their lips in a round form. Obviously, when you're reading the Quran, that is the mistake. Mostly the mistake comes there. If you will just read the alphabets individually here in the practice, you might shape your lips round, but when we are reading the Quran, that is when the sound of the dhamma is the mistake comes there. Why? Because sisters do not shape their lips round properly. So whenever, as soon as you see this dhamma, you are instantly supposed to shape your lips round, like full round. Okay. And you can, for practice, you can do that in front of mirror as well, so that you see your lips as well. Okay. The next point is pronounce the haraka in an Arabic accent without stretching or suddenly pausing the voice. This is also an important point, sisters, because these three basic harakas of fatha, kasra, and dhamma, they are just for a second or two, like a, e, u, just for this moment. Okay, not we're not supposed to prolong their sounds like a, e, u. We're not supposed to do that, and also we're not supposed to shorten their sound as well by making a jerk like a, e, u, a, e, u. This is a wrong way as well, right? So we are supposed to have this balanced kind of approach, that you're not supposed to overdo the lengthening, and also you're not supposed to cut that short as well. Okay, so this is what is mentioned in the last point, that it should be in an Arabic accent. What does this mean? That obviously it should be in its natural form, like a, e, u, right? A, E, U, just like this. Okay, so yes, for today we will only be practicing the Fatha sisters. Obviously, for you, you might think that maybe, the Fatha is actually easy. So some sisters find this easy as well. Okay, that we are just supposed to place a Fatha on every letter, and then this will be just like ba, ta, tha, ja. Well, in actuality, we are supposed to practice this over and over again, because there are lots of mistakes that are there in this, and then they move on to the and then they come when we move on to the Quran as well. So we are supposed to make them correct from the start, right from the beginning, and inshallah then it's good to move on to the Quran after some practice beforehand. Okay, so yes, the fatha looks like, again, this symbol, and it always appears before the, sorry, above the letter. Its sound should not be elongated and omitted, all of this I have already mentioned, right? So, just move on to the this kind of, exercise in front of you, which in which you see all the alphabets which have, this fatha symbol placed over them, right? So we just practice it like this. Okay, so sisters, before moving onwards with this exercise, I would just like to highlight this point in, at the start, which is that maybe I mentioned this point in the starting sessions as well, about the heavy as well as the light letters of Arabic. I mentioned that in English, we do not know anything like this, that some letters are heavy and some letters are light. Even though there might be some heavy letters, but this is not a distinction that we make in English, that some letters are heavy and some are light. But in Arabic, this is a very specific thing. This is a very important point, because there are so many pairs of letters that only differ just because of the thing that one of them is light and the other one is a heavy one, right? So so the difference in the sound of the two letters can be only because of the lightness or heaviness of the letter as well, right? So there are certain letters in Arabic that are always heavy, and then there are certain alphabets that are always light. So for that matter, you will obviously have to remember what are the heavy letters and what are the light letters. And then there are just three of the letters which are sometimes heavy and sometimes light, and there are conditions for those as well, that when they are heavy and when they are light, sisters. So for in today's session, for example, let me just tell you this thing, that for example, we have this alphabet ta, right? And then we have a pa alphabet. I have mentioned this previously as well, that the difference in these two alphabets is only of this thing, that one is light and the other is heavy. So obviously we will have to keep this in mind while practicing this thing. Otherwise, when we move on to the Quran, that is when we change the ta into the ta and ta into the ta. And yes, sisters, the meaning of the words gets changed just because of changing these sounds as well, right? When we change the sound of the letter, obviously the letter gets changed with the other, and obviously the meaning changes, and that is not a good thing to do with the Quran. So that is why what I will just do beforehand is that I will mark the heavy letters here, sisters. This one, okay, Okay, sisters. So, sisters, these letters that I have encircled right now, these are the seven heavy letters of Arabic. They are always, always heavy. Okay, and then we have three alphabets which are sometimes light and sometimes heavy. Let me just mark those with another color, which is okay. So there is this alif as well. Alif is not mentioned here in this exercise. Anyone who would like to, just make a guess why alif is not mentioned in this exercise? Why we do not see alif here? Any guess, sisters? Okay, so Aleph is not mentioned because Aleph does not have any symbol on top of it, but and because we are doing the exercise of the haraka of Fatha symbol. So obviously we do not have Aleph mentioned here because Aleph does not have any symbol on top of it or below it, right? So that is why Aleph is not here. So Aleph is also one of those letters, one of those three letters rather, which are sometimes heavy and sometimes light. So Aleph, raw letter, and lam letter, these three alphabets are sometimes light and sometimes heavy. It depends on their situation. Inshallah, if you will learn more, you will get to know when to make it light, when to make it heavy. Okay, so now that I have encircled the heavy and these two like raw and lam letter as well, let's just start with this exercise inshallah, and I will tell you how their sounds are different a bit. Okay, sisters. So first of all, we have this ba alphabet here. Ba alphabet has this fatha symbol on top of it. So obviously, we'll just make this ba ba sound, right? Ba, just like this. So in this ba letter, you are supposed to just remember that your lips join with strength. There is this strength at the start. If that you will miss that, the beautification in the ba letter will just go away. Okay, so ba ba. Okay. Then we have ta letter. Ta, ta, right? This is a light letter. Tip of the tongue, when we touch that to the area behind our upper front two teeth, that is how we say ta, ta. Okay. Then we have sa, sa alphabet. Tip of the tongue, when it touches the tip of our upper front two teeth, right? The edges of our upper front two teeth, we say tha without a whistle sound, right? No whistle sound, but just air is removed. Tha, tha. Okay. The next alphabet here is Jim. Jim with a fatha is ja, ja, right? We are not supposed to say ja or ja, ja, right? We are not supposed to stretch it, more than the actual limit, or and also we're not supposed to make a jerk and say ja, ja, right? Not like this as well, right? So we say ja, ja, sa, ja, right? And then we have ha, ha, the ha letter, which is from the middle portion of the throat. Okay, sorry, which is from the middle portion of the throat, and we say ha, ha, right? So, how do we practice this, sisters? Is that you can just practice it in this way as well. You say ba fatha ba fatha ba, ta fatha ta, sa fatha sa, jim fatha ja, ha, fatha, ha. In this way, what will happen, if you practice it in this way, you will obviously, get to remember the name of the alphabet. For example, you see Jeem. The name is Jeem, but Jeem with a fatha becomes Ja, Ja, right? So this will help you remember the names and, with the sound as well. And then what we do, the second step for the practice in this exercise is like Batasajaha, like this in a in this the complete row together. Batasajaha. So this will help you in with the speed of recalling these letters and then making a transition from one to another. This will help you in this thing. Okay, so Batasajaha, like this. Okay, so let's do the next row, which is kha letter. So this is sisters heavy letters. And what happens with the heavy letters? I said that we make the letters heavy. If we raise the back part of our tongue towards the palate, right, the end part of our tongue, we raise that towards the palate as much as we can, and that is how our mouth gets full with air, and we say kha. Kha, kha. So what happens, sisters? I said that you are supposed to just remember that at the end you will hear this aw sound. At the end of the heavy letters, you will hear the aw sound rather than ah. This ah is an empty mouth sound, whereas this aw sound is a heavy mouth, full mouth sound, you can say. So when we are saying this kha letter, kha, so I should, rather write in transliteration, I should rather write W at the end as well, so that you know that this is a heavy letter. So we're not supposed to say this like kha. This is not the correct way, but rather kha, kha. Okay, so this is kha letter with a scratch that comes from the upper portion of our throat, right? Kha. Then we have the dal alphabet. Tip of the tongue touches the area behind our upper front two teeth. The dal alphabet. Dal fatha da, dal fatha da, right? So this is da. Again, sisters, you're not supposed to just look at the transliteration that is written below, because obviously this is not da. The D sound is not there, because the sound of these alphabets is different than the English. Obviously we do not have any alternative to write here, so that is why we have written the nearest possible thing, right? But this is not the actual sound of it. The dal sound is the. So kha, the, kha, the. You will notice that this is the o sound at the end of kha. But for da, there is dal. There is this empty mouth sound. Why? Because dal is a light letter. The, I'm not saying lo. The o sound is not there at the end, right? Because this is a light alphabet. The, so kha, the. Then we have dhal alphabet. Dhal, dhal fatha, the. How do we articulate this alphabet? Tip of the tongue touches the tip of our upper front two teeth, right? And we say the, the, right? For this letter, air is not, air does not come out of our mouth. Rather, there's this voice is there. The, okay. So the is actually a soft letter than the Z of English. Okay. So the, kha, the, kha, the. Then we have raw, raw. This raw alphabet, sisters, it is encircled in the green, which means that this is sometimes heavy, sometimes light. But for now, sisters, you are supposed to remember that whenever raw alphabet is going to have a fatha on top of it, then raw will be heavy. Okay, there are other cases when raw will be light. For example, when raw will have a kasra, it will be light. But here raw has a fatha, so we are supposed to make raw heavy here. Let me write H here. Raw. Obviously, when we will make raw heavy, at the end you will hear this AW kind of sound. Oh, because you are raising the back part of your tongue. So this will be like RAW kind of sound. Raw, with this rolling at the start, like light rolling at the start as well. Raw. Kha, da, ra. The transition is there. Kha is heavy, dal and dal is light, and then ra is heavy here. Kha, da, ra. Kha, da, ra. Right? Kha, da, ra. And at the end of this row, we have the. The. This the is just like we say z in English, but there is this strong, you can say, buzzing sound here in this alphabet, right? Buzzing sound is there. So the, right? The is also a light letter, so that is why we hear a sound at the end. We do not hear o sound at the end. Zo. We do not say like this, right? So just let me say this row one more time like this. Qada, the, rosa. Okay, so the first row was bata, tha, jaha. Qada, the, rosa. Right, the second row needs a little practice, more than the first row, right? Because in the second row we have this transition of heavy as well as the light alphabets, right? So any sister would like to say the first row? Yes, this is kha, da, the, ra, the, kha, da, the, ra, the. Okay, so let's move on to the next row, which is Seen alphabet with a fatha. Seen, fatha, sa, sa. We know that Seen letter has this whistle sound in it, right? So we'll make that sa, sa. Then we have Sheen alphabet, sh, sh, right? This sound at the start, sha, sa, sha, sa, sha, right? And then we have a heavy alphabet, right? Then we have three heavy alphabets in a row. The first being Sod, right? The Sod alphabet, which is a heavy version of this Seen sisters, right? So Sod is a heavy version of this Seen, so we will differentiate it with Seen alphabet. The first was Seen Fatha Sa sound, Sa, light sound. At the end we hear a sound, sa, right? So, but for sod, what will happen? We will hear SAW kind of sound, saw. And not only that, the sod sound is heavy from the very start when we say saw. So even at the start, it is like not correct to write the S alphabet because the sound of this is light, right? So what you're supposed to do from the very start, you are supposed to make a heavy whistle sound. For the Seen alphabet, there was light whistle sound from the very start. Sa, sa, right? Sa. But for Sod, you will do slaw, slaw, right? Sa, slaw. Seen fatha sa, Sod fatha slaw, slaw. Okay? Sa, sha, slaw, Sasha, so, slow, SAW kind of sound, but the S sound at the start, even that is a very heavy sound. Slow, slow. Okay. Sasha, so, so. Okay. The next one is Bod alphabet. Bod, right? Again, this is a heavy alphabet, and I mentioned that this has a very different articulation point, which is that we use the sides of the back part of the tongue, or we can even use one side of the back part of our tongue. And what do we do with that? We touch that with the upper molar wisdom teeth, right? So the sides of the back part of the tongue, or any one side of the back part of the tongue, we touch that to the wisdom teeth above that area. Okay, so for the alphabet we say bo, bo, the sound is there, right? So but what happens is that I mentioned in the starting sessions that sometimes sisters mix this sound with this alphabet that we just did. Dal alphabet, the articulation point is totally different, which is a light letter the, but this is bo, bo, right? So what you are supposed to do here is to differentiate this bod with dal. Okay, so the dal was dal fatha da, dal, fatha, da, right? For the dad, the articulation point is totally different. Just remember the back part of the tongue and you touch that with the upper molar wisdom teeth, right? So we say dad, fatha, da, da. This is a heavy sound. Da, da, right? So for the dal alphabet, the articulation is different, right? Sisters, we use the front part of our tongue and we touch that, like the tip of the tongue is used and we touch that to the uh, in the area behind our upper front two teeth, so that is totally different. So we say bod, fatha, ba, ba. Let me say this row one more time from the start. Sasha, so, ba, sasha, so, ba. At the end, let me write the w for the dod as well here. Ba, but again, this D is not the correct way to write it. Why? Because, obviously we do not have any alternative sound in English. So this is different sound. Bo, bo. Okay. Sa, shall, so, bo, bo. Then we have bo. Again, I have the alphabet, sisters. Okay, so how we, just confuse this alphabet? What do we do with this alphabet, sisters, is that we make it like ta, right? We make it like ta alphabet, and sisters, again, this is not like ta. Ta is alphabet which is light one, and pa is a heavy alphabet. So the difference is like ta, fatha, ta, and now we have pa, fatha, pa. The O sound at the end. Paw. Also, for this paw alphabet, tip of the tongue, it touches the, edges, like, sorry, the roots of our upper front two teeth with strength, right? If the strength will be missing, if this quality of this letter will be missing, that will, turn it into the light ta alphabet. Okay, so you're supposed to say this with the strength when you say paw, paw, right? So the first two alphabets in this row are light, sta, sha, sta, sha, and then three are heavy, which are so, do, to, so, do, to, sta, sha, so, do, to. Okay, let me just say from the very start, which is ba, ta, sa, ja, ha, qa, da, za, ra, za, sta, sha, so, do, to. Right? So let's move on to the next row now, which is starting with a heavy letter of va. Va. This is va alphabet, right? Va. And how do we change its you can say sound, is that we mix it with this light alphabet of dal. So the articulation point of both of these is exactly the same, which is tip of the tongue. We touch that with the edges of our upper front two teeth, right? So we say the. In both of these alphabets, there is no air that we push from our mouth. The air does not come out, but rather there is this sound in there. The, Zal, Fatha, the. And for this alphabet, we are supposed to make this heavy. And how we do that is, sisters, by raising the back part of our tongue. We say law. This was the. This is law, right? The empty mouth sound, the at the end, the. Here we have law, o sound at the end, aw kind of sound, right? Law, law, the law. This was dal. This is law, right? So law, fatha, law, law. Okay, the next alphabet, sisters, we have Ain. Ain alphabet. And interestingly, sisters, this is a light letter, but again, there is this mistakes that sisters can do in this. What do they do is that they make it sound like Hamza. For example, when Hamza has a fatha on top of it, we say a, a, right? But when Ain letter has a fatha, we say a, ah, right? So Hamza comes from the lower portion of our throat, whereas this alphabet that we are just doing, we are supposed to, make some effort and make it come from our middle portion of our throat. We say ah, ah. So ain, fatha, ah, ah. This is not ah, like not like Hamza, okay? Ah, this is not like this. This is rather ah, right? Ain, fatha, ah. So first one is wa, ah, wa, okay? So you are supposed to, make this transition a bit quickly. So you're for that matter, you will have to have this practice of this alphabet ain, okay? So la, okay. Next alphabet we have ghain. Ghain, that comes from the upper portion of our throat, which has this gargle sound. Gha. This does not have this, scratch in this, like the Kha alphabet. Okay, this alphabet of Kha had, scratch sound abrasion in this, but for Ghain there is no abrasion, but rather that is, this gargling sound. Gha, 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 right? And again, you hear this heaviness of Ghain alphabet. Gha, gha, o sound at the end. Gha. I'm not saying gha, gha, right? This is not the sound of gha, gha, gha. This is empty mouth sound. We are supposed to make it heavy and say gha, right? Gha. So, dha, gha, right? Dha, gha. And then we have light alphabet of fa, fa, fatha, fa, fa. Air comes out of our mouth when we say fa, And after that we have qaf. Qaf is again a heavy alphabet. So again we are supposed to raise the back part of our tongue and make a heavy sound and say qaf fatha qa qa qa. Okay, this is not qa qa. This is not the sound qa, or we say qa qa, right? We make our mouth full. So let me just say this is this row now. First alphabet is heavy, then we have a light alphabet, then heavy, then again light, and then we have a heavy. So there's constantly this transition of heavy and light, right? So let's do this. ظَعَ غَفَ قَ ظَعَ غَفَ قَ. We're not supposed to make ayn heavy in the middle like ظَعَ غَ ظَعَ غَ, right? We're not supposed to do this. Rather, ظَعَ a is light. ظَعَ غَ فَ قَ ظَعَ غَفَ قَ. Right? So let's do this from the very start. بَتَ سَجَحَ قَدَ ذَرَزَ تشصدط ضع غفق. Okay, so the next alphabet that is coming here is a light letter, which is kaf. Kaf, fatha, ka, ka. So what happens, sisters, is that we confuse the sound of these two together, right? The heavy qaf and then light kaf that we are doing right now. This was qaf, fatha, qa. This is kaf, fatha, ka. At the end, you hear, right? I'm not saying ka, ka, right? This is ka, and the previous one was ka, ka. For this heavy alphabet, what we do, the back part of the tongue, we touch that with the, the upper, the above soft palate with strength. The back part of the tongue, we touch with the soft palate with strength. We say ka, this sound, ka. For the calf alphabet, the back part of the tongue not only touches the soft palate, but a little portion of the hard palate as well, right? So we say ka, ka. This sound, the sound of it is, like the K of English, ka, ka, ka. So this is ka, and then we have la. All of the others are inshallah easy. This is like L, this is like M, and then this is like N, and then this is like W. So we say lam fatha la, la, mim fatha ma, right? And then we have noon fatha na. We're not supposed to take the voice of the noon in the nose. Sometimes sisters make it nasal by saying na. We're not supposed to say na. Rather, this is na, like the sound is there, we push that from our mouth, right? We do not keep it in the nose or in our mouth, right? So this is like na, ma, na. The sound of this, the meme and noon letter, we are supposed to be careful about these two, because they can be made nasal, and that will be incorrect to do that here. Meme fatha ma, noon fatha na, and then wow fatha wa, wow fatha wa. For wow, we're supposed to remember that. You are supposed to remember this point very, very clearly, that as soon as you see wow alphabet, or you see the symbol dhamma of the harakas, you are instantly supposed to shape your lips round, right, in an O shape. Wa, wa. So let me say this row. Kalamana wa. This is an easy row, inshallah, right? All of these alphabets here in this row are light. So what about this second alphabet that I have encircled, which is lam, right? This lam alphabet, is from those alphabets which are sometimes heavy and sometimes light, right? So that is why I have marked it with the, encircled this with the green color here. But sisters, what will happen is that you can remember this thing, that lam alphabet is like, 99.9% light, right? If there is just one or two, you can say, exception of the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in which the lam alphabet can get heavy. Okay, so the name of the Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then we say Allah, Allah, right? So in that, sometimes it is heavy and sometimes it is light. But other than that, whenever this lam letter comes in any alphabet in the Quran, that is always light. So that is why here, even if lam has, a fatha symbol, so we say la. I'm not saying law, right? I'm not making a heavy sound of aw at the end. This is la. Ka la ma na wa. Like this. Ka la ma na wa. Okay. So who is going to say the third row now, sisters? Any volunteer for that? Okay, so the last of row of today is with ha alphabet. Now, sisters, again, I will say that this ha, we confuse this with the ha that we have seen at the end of the first row. That was, more airy. Let me just mark this. This ha was a bit more airy, right? And this comes from the middle portion of our throat. But this ha comes from the lower portion of our throat, and this has this, kind of a, more heaviness to it. Not a heavy letter though, but more heaviness. What do I mean by this? Like ha, ha, a more voice to it than the air sound. Ha. The first one, for the first one, we push the air. Ha, ha. But for this one, ha, ha. This is ha, ha, fatha, ha. We're not supposed to confuse this with the other one. Okay, the next two sisters, these are both, the Hamza alphabets. Obviously, I told you that this is just a way to write Hamza. Sometimes we write Hamza like this, sometimes like this, sometimes like this, right? Sometimes like this as well, sometimes like this, and then this. All of these are ways of writing Hamza in Quran that we see. So here, first we have Hamza written like this in its actual shape. Then we have Hamza on top of, Alif looking symbol. But, obviously as a whole, this is Hamza and not Alif. So, this might be written here for the reason that we know that the Alif is missing from this exercise. So they might be, just saying that if we place any symbol on top of Alif, that will obviously become Hamza. So that is why they might have written it here. Okay, so for both of these, we'll just say we'll say Hamza Fatha A, Hamza Fatha A. Hamza has a sharp sound of it, right? Not like the soft A sound. This is not we're not make a light soft sound, but from the very beginning, Hamza is a very sharp a very clear sound, which comes from the lower portion of our throat. Because if you will just articulate this hamza from your, what do I say, from your mouth, this hamza is not coming from the mouth. Rather, the sound of the alif, it is articulated from the mouth area. So hamza is coming all the way from our lower portion of our throat. So we say right? So the first one is ha. Then we have so we'll say the for two times because it is written here two times. So ha, and then we have ya for two times. Why for two times? Because both of these ya are mentioned in the Quran. We will see this letter in both ways. Okay, so we say ya fatha ya, yeah, yeah. I said that we're not supposed to make this sound in this alphabet. We're not supposed to say yeah, yeah. We're not supposed to make our teeth come closer to make this sound. Rather, what we will do, the articulation of this ya letter is the middle portion of your tongue is raised towards the palate. That has nothing to do with your teeth, right? The articulation is only related to the middle portion of your tongue. You try to, just raise that towards the palate above and you say, yeah, yeah. So, ha, ya, ya. That is how we say this row, sisters. Inshallah, this is easy. Anyone would like to say this last row? Ha, ya, ya. Okay, so sisters, in front of you, you see this kind of exercise to practice, what you have just learned, you can practice the heavy and light letters in this exercise. How you can practice, sisters? For example, in this first word here, all of these three alphabets, it has, they have this fatha symbol. So what are these alphabets? This is ba fatha, ba sin fatha sa, and then we have a ra fatha ra. So in this exercise, you will no, you will have to notice that what is the light alphabet and what is the heavy. So the first ba alphabet is light, the second is light, but the third one ra is a heavy. So we will make a heavy sound. So how we will say this is like basaro, basaro. Raw has a heavy sound. Let me just write W at the end in this transliteration as well. Basaro, raw, right? Basaro. That is how you are supposed to practice this exercise. Let's, see the next word here, which is ta, ro, ka, right? Ta, ro, ka. So in this one, the middle one is a heavy. Ta, ro, ka, ta, ro, ka, like this. Then we have ma, meme letter, tha letter, and lam. Ma, tha, la. Mathala. All three are light here. For lam, I have mentioned already that lam is 99.9% light. So here, yes, lam is light because this is not the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We do not have Allah written here, right? So even in the name of Allah, there is this exception that when we are supposed to make it, let me just tell you quickly, sisters. I cannot just wait to share this thing, which is that when before the lam of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala there is this fatha symbol, or there is this dhamma symbol, then we will make the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala heavy, the lam in Allah's name heavy. This is lam here, okay, in the middle, and we say Allahu, Allah. You might have heard certain scholars and people on the internet saying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They do not say Allah, they say Allah, Allah, like this. And when there is so there is this fatha, we say Allah. When there is dhamma before this, we say hullah, hu, hullah, like this. Okay, so again, then and the sound is heavy. But when there comes a kasra, this slanting line below the letter before the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so then we make it light. We say milla, la, the la. We do not say law here. When there comes a kasra, we say milla. Then we say the lam of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's name light. So, obviously, if you do not understand this right now, even then it is okay. It is fine. I just mentioned for the sake of mentioning, for the sake of information. Okay, so in this word, sisters, and in all of the other examples, when there will not be the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, lam letter is supposed to be light then. So this is la. We're not saying law, right? So this is la. Okay. Masala. This is masala. Then we have Jim here, Meme here, and Ain here. Jama'a, Jama'a, Jama'a. Like this, right? So we're not supposed to, stretch the fatha. You are noticing that, right? In all of these fathas, I'm just doing, you can say that all of these words have three alphabets, right? So we are not supposed to just stretch one more than the other. For example, in the word jama'a, we're not supposed to say jama'a, jama'a. We're not supposed to do this, or we're not supposed to stretch the meme and say jama'a, jama'a, or with the ain jama'a, right? If you will do this thing, you're not, then you will be adding on the alphabets in the middle. For example, you will be adding the alif here or here or here. That is how you are raising the voice. Okay, so from the very start you are supposed to just remember these timing of this haraka, that for how many, you can say, counts. Counts, what do we mean by counts is that you can just count that on your fingertips. Like this is for like 1 or 2 second, 1 to 2 counts. A single haraka is like 1 to 2 counts. Ja, ma, a. If you count one haraka, one fatha on your finger, that will be like 1 to 2 counts. Jama'a, just like this. Neither 3 to 4 counts, nor like jama'a, 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 not fast as well. Okay, so let me say this from the start. Basara, taraka, masala, jama'a. Right? So making this transition of heavy and light as well. Then we have hasada. Hasada. Again, all of these three are light. Right? So all of these three are again light. Hasada. Hasada. Okay, and then this word here, sisters, The first alphabet here is a heavy, then two next two are light. Kha, ta, ma. Let me write W here. Khaw. Kha, khatama, khatama. Okay. So, sisters, I mentioned that how we're supposed to do this exercise as well. First, you can practice it like this. Ba, fatha, ba, sin, fatha, sa, ra, fatha, ra, basa, ra. Then, for the next word, ta, fatha, ta, ra, fatha, ra, ka, fatha, ka, ta, ra, ka. Then you can say mim fatha ma, ta fatha sa, lam fatha la, masala. Okay, so when we do this thing from like for the whole row, then we can say it like basara taraka masala jama'a hasada khatam, like this. Okay, so this is how we will practice the transitions and the names and the shapes and all of these things together as well. Okay, so let me just do this thing for the next row, and inshallah then you can participate in this as well exercise, so that you are able to practice as well. Let me just row the do let me just do the third row now, sisters. So for the third row we have Sod alphabet, which is a heavy alphabet. Then we have a Dal alphabet, which is a light alphabet, and then we have Qaf alphabet, which is a heavy. So let me write it like this. Sod is heavy, Dal is light, Qaf is heavy. So we say Sadaqa, Saw, SAW sound at the start here, sorry. Saw, da is normal, and qa. Sadaqa. Sadaqa. Right? We're not supposed to say the sa sound, which is like a seen alphabet. Okay? So this is heavy from the very start. We say saw. Sadaqa. Sadaqa. Then ba is heavy, ra is heavy, and ba is light. Ba, ra, ba. Ba is light. We're not supposed to make ba heavy. Sometimes, sisters, when we are not, obviously you are new, so this can happen that you might say it like daraba, daraba. Sometimes this happens while reciting the Quran as well. So you're supposed to just say it like do, ro, ba, ba. Ba is empty mouth. Then ta is heavy, ba is light, ain is light. Then dha is heavy, lam is light, mim is light. Then we have light, 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 and then we have heavy and light and heavy. So let me just say all of these. Sadaqa, daraba, daraba, taba'a, ba'a, right? Taba'a, zalama, zalama. Then we have amala, amala, ghafara, 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 ghafara. Okay, one more time. Sadaqa, right? Sadaqa. Sadaqa, daraba, taba'a, zalama, amala, ghafara. Sisters, I mentioned, I think, in the previous sessions as well, that there are certain alphabets that we say with strength, right? There is this quality in them, which is like the Jim alphabet, and then we have Dal as well, and then we have Ba alphabet as well, in which there is this, you can say we say them with strength. If we will not say them with strength, the beauty will go away. For example, if we will not say this with strength, there will be like this this sound. Okay, that is not there in its actual sound. So this is j, j with strength. Sh, j, raw. Inshallah. And also, sisters, you see in front of you another exercise. What I would just say is that if you want to practice more, you can just take a screenshot of this one and you can practice on your own. Why that can be a bit easy? Because in this exercise you see that letters are not joined together completely. Like you see there is this distance that is there. Rather than writing it like this, by writing it in a joined way, this is written like this, so that that will help you in understanding the way you are supposed to write. right? So the first alphabet is Hamza here. This is not Alif here because
Okay.
obviously there is a haraka. So Hamza, and then we have Meme, and then we have Ra. So this just tells you how you are supposed to use the first part of the Meme alphabet to write it like this. And this is Lam here. So inshallah you can practice this exercise as well, sisters. Okay, so this is just kind of a homework. And if you want to, you can do that. If you just don't want to, it's still fine. It's okay. Okay, I think that is it from my side, sisters. For today, we have covered the first haraka, which is fatha. We have two remaining, which is kasra and dhamma, and inshallah, we will cover them in the next sessions. Inshallah. Also, sisters, one more thing is that we are, I have mentioned that we are following this book. I have shared this in the WhatsApp group as well, which is named as Al Qaida Al Qur'aniya. This is the booklet that we are following. The exercise that you see in front of you right now, that is taken from that book. Okay, so we are majorly following that book. So you can have this PDF of that book with you, and you can practice on your own from that as well. The definitions are also, these definitions are also there in that book, right? So another thing I would just like to share is that I will inshallah be sending you a link of an app which is specifically made in accordance with this book of Al Qaeda Al Qur'aniya. What will happen is that the exercise that you see in front of you, you will find inshallah this exercise in that app as well, where this is said out loud by a teacher, and she is just telling you the correct articulation of all of these. So obviously my recording is there on the YouTube as well, but if you want to practice before that, you will have that app with you, and you can practice inshallah any other time as well with that. Inshallah, that is going to help you with more. And yes, I think that is it from my side, inshallah.
Inshallah.
Jazakallah